Got a long one for you guys today. 2 collabs in one video. Let's jump into this before I start rambling. What is up, Fin fans? And like I always say, football fans. This is prospect videos. You don't just have to be a Dolphin fan to watch these videos, or hit that subscribe button. Today's video, we're talking secondary, and this is the last prospect video. I got my buddy Jeremy Klump and I got my buddy Jason Sarney on here. We're going to be talking, Jeremy and I are going to be talking corners. Jason and I are going to be talking safety. So I got a big video for you guys. If you can tell by the length, it's a long one, but we're talking 2 different positions, top 5 in both positions. So before I get into any of the other things I need to talk about, shout out my guys at patchvibes.com. Fantastic. I'm actually going to be doing something with them Wednesday night. It's going to be fantastic and fun. Be sure to use the promo code DDW and you get yourself 20% off. Also, Miami Sports Music. If you know who Solo D is, you know who Miami Sports Music is. Check out the podcasts that they have on their website and their YouTube channel. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. Before we jump into all this stuff, really quick rundown of what's going on this week, because a lot of you guys ask me. Today is the last prospects video. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing my final mock draft and what the Dolphins are doing or thinking or what they should do with, the first. I'm going to go for probably 4 picks. Wednesday, getting prepared. So no video Wednesday unless something news breaks. And then Thursday, I will be live for the draft a half hour before the draft starts. Same thing with Friday. I will be live 15 to a half hour minutes before the draft starts. So for everyone asking, are you going to be live? You bet your sweet Aunt Bippy I'm going to be live both days, not on the third day though. I will be busy with the baby on the third day. But you will get, grades and all that stuff. So if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when I go live for the draft Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But without further ado, the way it's going to work is we're going to jump into the conversation with Jeremy Klump. We're going to be talking about corners and then segue right into talking with Jason Sarney. And then you'll see me back here after all that jazz. Got my buddy Jeremy here, a.k.a. Professor Klump. We were actually just talking about this before we came on. But yeah, tell the people we're gonna get this out right in the front. Tell them where they can find you, what you're doing, all that great stuff.
Yep. You can follow me on Twitter at NuttyXProfessor. I cover the Dolphins for the Fin Fanatic. A lot of you know me from there, and I cover the Florida Gators for Hail Florida Hail. I also host the Man-to-Man Coverage podcast with Smart Guy James Smart. So if you want to give us a listen as well, please do that. But yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. Yeah. Smart guy. He's a very smart guy.
Oh, he is. Him and I, the amount of text messages him and I send each other about the weirdest stuff, like sport wise and stat wise, is so funny. What we like to do is, like, he's a big stat guy and I'm a big film guy. So we try to see where it connects and how play. I mean, it honestly has worked really well for us to talk players and stuff. It's pretty cool.
He has his charts and I love him.
I love his charts.
So me and Jeremy are going to break down our top 5 corners in this year's draft. Fun fact, literally about 20 minutes before we came on, Jeremy sent me his list of his top 5, and it's exactly the same as my top 5 list. So it's going to work out really well, because when I had Reason on, it was like his would be 3 and then it would be my 2. And so we climbed this ladder to go up. But this time it's going to work out. It's going to be a nice, build up. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to give the stats, pros, cons, and then we're going to move on. So we're going to start with our number 5, and that's Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. He's 5'10". It's a little small. 184, ran a 4.41 40. So he's a quick little guy. 35-inch vert and a 10.04 broad jump. What are your pros on him?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing, you mentioned he's a small guy, but we talked about it before we came on. I love small guys like that play big, and he plays big. Like he's small just by how you see him next to people on the field, but he doesn't act like he's small. He doesn't think he's small on the field. So I've always lived by a quote. It's like, it's not the size of the dog. It's like the fight in the dog or whatever it is, or the size of the fight, whatever it was. But like, that's him. That's the definition of him on the field. Is he may be that small guy, but he's going to come up and hit you. He's not afraid to tackle. I love that he's not afraid to tackle. I think one of my other favorite things is, like, yeah, he's this small guy, but you see him running with these big receivers, the ball's up in the air. He's competing. He loves to compete. And I love that about him. I will say, though, for me, I see a lot of people saying that he probably could start on the outside in the NFL. I don't see him as an outside starter in the NFL. I think there's nothing wrong with that, though. Like, it's okay to be a slot corner in the NFL. They're very valuable. So, yeah, I think that's probably the only other negative for me is that, to me, he's not an outside starter.
Yeah, especially like you said, nowadays slot receivers are taking over the NFL. To have a slot corner that can shut them down is, yeah. So some of my negatives, because you hit perfectly on all the pros. Some of my negatives, obviously he's small guy, never really did zone. He did a lot of man in college, and his ball skills need to be worked on a little bit, finding the ball in the air. But he's our number 5. Like you nailed on it perfectly. He may be small, but he's going to knock you out. Really good run defender, really good tackler. So that's our number 5. Our number 4, out of Northwestern, Greg Newsome II. He's 6'1", 190, ran a 4.38 40. So another fast corner, which is good because there's a lot of fast receivers. 40-inch vert. I'm going to take the positives in this one. He's patient in his zone. So he's not jumping routes. He's not trying to do something that's not there. He's very patient in his zones. He's allowed 1 catch on 15 targets of 10 plus yards last season. So he doesn't let people get past him. He's very well at getting at the ball at the top point of it and at the catch point, and he has great feet. He's like a little tap dancer out there moving around. Great feet. You can add to that, and what are some of your negatives?
Yeah, I think one thing I love about him, he's twitched up. Like even that 40-yard, it's probably not that fast. With these pro day 40s, who knows? But I mean, he's fast. He flies around the field. I love that. I think one thing that you said about like his feet being good, I think that helps him a lot, because I think a big negative for him, he doesn't really trust himself. It seems like there's a lot of like uncertainty in what he's doing. So like he'll be in position, but it's not like he thinks he should be there sometimes, if that makes sense. Like it's almost like he's thinking too much instead of just doing, but luckily he's got the feet to recover from it. I honestly, I think one of my other favorite things about him that I missed on that I should have said, I love that he wears the hoodie sometimes in the pads. I don't know if you noticed that. For some reason, that's just like, he's got like franchise swag there, and I do like that a lot. But yeah, I just think he's a little raw too. I think he definitely needs to develop a little in the NFL, but I think, dude, he's got sky high potential, and I know a lot of people are really high on him. I think Reason's one of those people too. He's actually who got me onto him. I'm pretty sure Reason was. And I mean, you can see that this guy has a lot to build on. I think he only started, don't quote me, I think it was only like 16, 17 games in college. So, I mean, he's got a lot of football in him. So yeah, that's for me. He definitely needs to just keep progressing and growing and just trusting himself more. I feel like he is good, but sometimes you can see it that he just doesn't trust what he's doing.
Yeah. And you see that a lot with a good amount of these young, up and coming corners. They double guess themselves, and sometimes that'll get you, because if you get a stop and go route or something, you double guess yourself, you're getting beat over the top. Now we're going to jump to our number 3, and we actually just talked about this guy, and that is out of Virginia Tech, Cleve Farley, 6'2", 207. I don't have any stats on him. Jeremy, help me out with that one, because he just had, when did he have back surgery? You said a few weeks ago?
I believe it was a few weeks ago. Yeah, I saw that he had back surgery, but he should be good for camp, they said.
So there's no 40, there's no, any of that stuff, obviously back surgery. What are your positives on him?
I think my favorite positive about him, he's very, very reactive in a sense where I don't think like the exact opposite of what we just talked about with Newsome. Like he makes the plays after, like he just, when the ball's in the air, he gets there. Yeah. He might not be in the best position, but he's going to react when he has to. And he just somehow is always around the football. Even if he makes a mistake, he recovers from it nicely. So I love that. And I don't know. He's just one of those guys that like, he's always his hands on the ball. He's either picking it off. I think he had like 8 interceptions in college. I want to say something like that. I just love the way he gets to the football. Like when you play cornerback in the NFL, there's a lot of guys that are pretty famous. Like if you think of someone like Nnamdi Asomugha, everyone thought he was so great, mainly because he like knocked the ball away but he never really like produced on the ball. Farley produces, like he will get you the ball. He will get takeaways. And I think that's a huge aspect. I mean, the Miami Dolphins fans know what it's like to have a cornerback who can pick passes off. So I just love the way that he gets to the football. He flies around and like, he just reacts to the football better than anyone in the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly with he kind of makes up for that mistake. He has that top end speed where if the receiver gets a few yards ahead of him, he'll catch up. Kind of reminds me of a guy you were just talking about with like Xavian Howard. Xavian Howard loves to play with the quarterbacks, right? Give the receiver a yard or two ahead, and then the quarterback thinks, I got him. He did that with T.Y. Hilton in 2019 twice, where he gave him a little cushion. Andrew Luck thought, I got him, and nope, got him picked off twice. Agree 100%. The negatives on Cleve Farley, he's not much of a press man. 58 times he pressed at the snaps, so he's not very press oriented. So if you are playing man with him, you probably want to work on getting him up there and pressing. And he's clunky. That's why he's gonna, if he gets beat at that line, you got that problem. And again, we talked about this off camera. He opted out 2020. So with the back surgery and then opting out in 2020, kind of don't know what we have with Cleve Farley.
Yeah. And I will add, actually, Ben Albright was on Finside the NFL with Reason, and he said that a lot of people actually have him way higher than he was going to go. And that was before back surgery. So wow. I wonder how far he'll drop, honestly, in the draft.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I got a few draft questions for you after we get to 2 and 1. Now our number 2 is J.C. Horn out of South Carolina, 6'1", 205, ran a 4.39 40. Again, another fast corner, 41.5-inch vert and 11.1 foot broad jump. For me, the pros with this guy, he's physical. He is a big physical corner, fights to stay on top. He's quick to turn his head. He knows when to turn his head at the perfect point, not to let the receiver get ahead of him. My dad, a huge Dolphin fan, always yells at the corners, why don't they turn their head? And I always have to remind him, Dad, if you turn your head to look for the ball and that receiver keeps going, all of a sudden you lost the receiver. Very good at that. And he's terrific at getting at the point of the catch, getting that ball and securing that. What are his negatives? And if you have any more pros you can throw in there.
So I think you hit the pros, and I love that you said he's physical, because it's also a big negative for him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's too physical sometimes, mm-hmm. and like he's going to get flags thrown on him all the time in the NFL. I know a lot of people have said that. That's like a pretty like common take for him. But I mean, when you watch him, he just, every time his hands are on people. He just needs to learn to let go sometimes and trust his technique and stay with the people, like you said, turn his head or not turn his head. But he just needs to trust himself a little more. And I think the problem is when he's too physical, he doesn't get around fast enough, and his ball production is terrible. I think he had 1 interception in college. I don't like that. That scares me a little bit. I mean, he definitely needs to intercept more passes, needs to make plays on the ball for the defense. But with that said, I mean, being that physical in the NFL, that will help him. I mean, against alpha number 1 receivers, I mean, he's going to match up with them. He's going to get in their face and he's going to play on them. But I'm honestly pretty intrigued to see how many penalties he gets year 1 in the NFL, if he's going to try to change his game or if he's going to go in with that physical play. Because I don't think he'll be able to play as physical as he was in college. They'll throw flags on him all day.
Oh yeah. And it's funny too, because that's the very first thing I have in his cons is, he needs to reel in that physicality. 5 penalties on 466 snaps. It's got to, in college, the whole PI only being 15 yards. If you're getting beat, just take your receiver out. It's better than giving up the touchdown. Whereas in the NFL, don't take that receiver out. You get the placement foul. And then we got our number 1 corner. And I would love to see this guy in a Dolphin jersey, but I honestly don't think it's going to happen. And that is Patrick Surtain II out of Alabama, 6'2", 202 pounds, ran a 4.42 40, 39-inch vert, and a 10.9 foot broad jump. What are some of your pros with Patrick Surtain?
Oh, this is one of my favorite defensive players in the draft. He is incredible to watch play football. He does it all. And I think that's one thing that's pretty rare for a corner. Like sometimes when you look at a corner, all they do is cover, which is fine. I'm fine with corners that only cover. I think that's actually what they should do. Like CJ Henderson last year, for example, a lot of people knocked him because he doesn't tackle much. I don't care if my corners don't tackle much. As long as they can cover the number 1 receiver, I'm happy. But you get the best of both worlds with him. He can cover and he comes up and hits people. I love his instincts. Like there's a couple plays you just see him sitting there and he just sees that guy flaring out and he flies up and makes the play. It gets me like juiced up. I just love the way he plays the game. I should have mentioned this with Horn. I forgot to, and Asante Samuel, but the bloodlines for me for some of these corners, I love, like, I'm a true firm believer in bloodlines. Like some people think it's so overrated and it's not a big deal, But there's something to it. I mean, look at some of these NFL players now. These guys, 3 of these guys in our top list, they all have NFL people, NFL dads. Like, come on. So I love that he's got the bloodlines. I would love for the Dolphins to get him. A lot of people gave me heat. I said if the Dolphins were going to trade Howard, which I'm not saying trade Howard, but if they do, the 10th pick from the Dallas Cowboys is what I would do. I got that from Reason again. I keep bringing up Reason. Reason's my dude, but this is the guy that I would love for the Dolphins to draft. I mean, if you're talking about the best corner in the draft, I think a lot of people have Horn above him, which is kind of crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it's close. Like, I think he's like 1, and then the other guys are way below him because he is just the best corner in the draft. The only knock I have on him, I won't steal it from you. Actually, you say your weakness, and if you don't touch on it, then I'll get to it.
Okay. And I agree 100% with the whole Xavian Howard thing. And I think that's pretty funny that you bring that up because I've done a few other, podcasts and stuff. And I brought up that idea, and I'm same with you. People call me a Tua stan because I defend him when people say wrong things about him, but I'm actually an Xavian Howard stan. Like, I love that guy. Like, I always back him up. But if we can just, hey, Cowboys, we'll give you X and just give us 10, just even swap. And then we put another Surtain in the same exact number. Oh, I would friggin' love it.
It'd be awesome. It'd be so cool.
Just to reiterate to the people out there watching this, me and Jeremy do not want to trade Xavier Howard.
100%.
We love him.
I'm okay with paying him more money. He earned it. 10 picks. You know what I mean? Like, dude, but if they decide to move on, it's still smart business. There's no wrongs for the Dolphins for that situation.
Exactly. And how nice would it be to see Surtain in a Dolphin jersey again? But his negatives, right? That, he tend to have receivers kind of get away from him up top, the speed difference there and all that stuff. But there's probably more that I missed, but that's all I really have with him. Like you said, he's that, for me, he's that above and beyond top corner for me. His negatives are his speed, and then he lets the receivers go. But he started since his freshman year. He hasn't allowed more than 65 yards a game against top talented wide receivers, and the kid can play in the slot too. Like, he's the number one corner. But do you have a negative that I didn't touch upon?
The only negative I have, same thing, is just with the interceptions. Like, I feel like he's always there. I don't know how he doesn't intercept the ball more. It's so weird. You can tell he's a defensive player, not a wide receiver. Like, he gets his hand on the ball a lot, but just doesn't pick it off. So I would love if he could somehow get his hands to catch the ball. This guy's going to be an all-pro player. I really believe it. He is so good. He's so good.
He's like a Byron Jones in the college.
I like that. That's not bad. He's like built up like him too. I like that.
So before you get out of here, I got to ask you, who do you see the Dolphins taking at 6 and 18? And do you see the Dolphins staying at 6?
So a lot of people know where I'm probably going to go here, but it's been a pretty rough couple of days for me because I finally have, some people have tweeted at me, I've gotten to the acceptance aspect of my Kyle Pitts not getting drafted by the Miami Dolphins depression. I just don't see how he doesn't go pick 4. And everyone said, oh, it's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. I brought this up on Fins or Die with Sorty. A lot of people don't understand that the Tennessee Titans ran the most 12 personnel in the NFL last year. And why is that significant? Because the Atlanta Falcons' new head coach was the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. So Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and I don't know how people just write off Matt Ryan. He threw for like 4,600 yards and 26 touchdowns last year. I mean, you're talking about probably a top 3 elite offense in the NFL. And everyone's going to say, oh, their defense isn't going to stop anyone. But the way to win a game of football is to have more points than the other team. So if the Atlanta Falcons want to make it a track meet and they want to just keep scoring touchdowns, there's not going to be a better team in the NFL to score touchdowns. They're going to be insane. So I don't think Pitts is going to be there at 6. I don't know if the Miami Dolphins want to stay at 6. I did see the Denver report today, which is kind of crazy. So I've been pretty on board with this lately that if Kyle Pitts is gone at 4 or 5, and I think he will be, I don't see how even the Bengals would pass up on him. If he's gone at 4 or 5, I think the Miami Dolphins should trade down. I just see so much value in adding more picks, and I don't think there's anyone better than Kyle Pitts. I think Devontae Smith is amazing. I think Penei Sewell is amazing, but I'd be okay with trading back to 9 and trying to still get one of those guys. You know what I mean? But if they do stay at 6, I'm probably going Devontae Smith if Kyle Pitts is gone. I think Devontae Smith is the best route runner I've ever scouted in my entire life. I don't care that he's 166. It's a concern, yes, but let's be real. The guy can run routes and get beat press coverage. He's got great hands. He's elite. I mean, yes, he should gain weight. It's pretty concerning that he gained weight and got to 166, but I'd say Devontae Smith is my pick at 6. And then if we're going pick 18, I'm pretty hopeful that Micah Parsons drops to 18. I know the red flags and the like out off the field and stuff, but I don't think he's going to be there either, to be honest. I think some team's going to see the talent is it's worth the red flags and just trying to see what they can get from him, and hopefully he stays out of trouble. So I would say pick 18 is the same concept for me. A lot of people are going to get mad at me, but I would love for the Dolphins to trade down again. Like, I think the Dolphins can keep maximizing picks, and I like hate the idea of adding all these picks because you have to hit on them, obviously. But like, I trust the Dolphins to like make the right pick. But so if I had to pick at 18 who they're going, I'm going to say they probably go edge there.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Oljalari, or however you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
I always mess that one up. That one's tough, but I'd say him or like Kwity Paye from Michigan. I'd say like an edge defender is probably where they go at 18. And was there another question? Did I miss one?
I don't remember. I was so into it.
Yeah, sorry. I ran. Sometimes I ran. I just love talking football. It's like,
well, I agree. Because it's funny, you were talking and I was just like, yeah, man, I get because people want, like, I would love, Dolphins are in a great situation at 6 because there's 5 players that I would love if the Dolphins got, Pitts, Sewell, Chase, Smith, and even Waddle. We get any of those 5, I'm cool. And it's at the point where the Dolphins literally can go back 3 more picks and potentially still get one of the 5 that I'm like, yeah, cool. So, and then what you were talking about the Falcons, I was just like, I never thought of it that way, So I honestly, I didn't think, and I did a mock draft for Miami Sports Music, and I had Pitts going to the Falcons, and they were like, well, why do you think that? I'm like, because you'd be dumb to pass up on them.
Yep.
I said, don't be surprised if the 49ers throw a monkey wrench and they don't take a quarterback. Imagine
I've
they
seen
moved
that,
up.
Actually. Could you imagine if they traded up for Kyle Pitts? I would actually be really mad. And I would be mad.
Friggin' little sit. He's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on, bud. It was a blast. Like I said, you just opened up my mind to so many things that I completely forgot the question I asked you.
No worries, man. I appreciate you having me on. This is a lot of fun. Honestly, I love the work you do. So keep it up. And thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, man. This won't be the last time. I'll have you on again soon.
I appreciate it.
You guys can see we had Jeremy with the corners. I had to bring in this guy, my guy, Jason Sarney. I asked him too. I said, Jason, what do you want to talk about? And he said safeties. And then he just gave me a list of about 14 safeties. So he knows what he's talking about. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, DD-Dubs. I'm a little bit more awake than you these days, but I say that respectfully to the new dad that you are. But you look terrific.
I appreciate that. I think I boosted the good-looking filter on my webcam.
You're natural.
So what have you been up to? Before we jump into our top 5 safeties, what have you been up to? What are you doing? What do you want the people to know?
Doing a lot over at Fin Maniacs. We just actually launched a series of podcasts within a Fin Maniacs network on Blue Wire Hustle, which is a fun little subdivision of the Blue Wire podcast network. So we're really going to be trying to deliver daily podcasts. I'll be a host of, a couple of the shows a week. And then we have a couple of other kind of segmented sub shows. We have a couple of out of town fans and Chip Turner and Sean Williams, who are going to be called the Outsiders, and a show of their own, just kind of have a little bit of a different theme to non-Floridian Dolphin fans. And they have some really terrific takes. And of course, 2 young phenoms that have been crushing it have been Brandon Lagori and Hussam Patel at the scouting combine. And credit to, both those guys, but Hussam is our director of scouting, and he's been I don't think the kid sleeps. He graduated, he works, he does just all of our player profiles and runs a great shop there. So doing a lot. Can't wait for the draft.
That's awesome. Yes, everyone be sure to check out Fin's Maniacs. I've been on there a ton. Fantastic guys. Love talking to them. Love chatting with them. Be sure to go over and check that out. So we're going to jump into our top 5 safeties. We're going from 5 to 1. I'm going to have Jason being the guest. He's going to go first. He's going to give his 5th safety, give positive, negatives, and then it'll be my turn. So who do you got as a number 5 safety in this draft?
The number 5 safety that I have in the draft is a guy that I actually think maybe might be the best bang for buck Dolphin if you're looking at like the 3rd round pick, or maybe if there's a trade up down, but maybe in picks kind of 50 to the 81 range. I'm looking at FSU, Hamza Nasruddin. 6'3", he's long, he's lengthy, he's smart. He's a Flores product in terms of just heady. He's that like Swiss Army knife kind of guy, you know? So in terms of the positives, he could really be kind of moved and shifted like a kind of queen chess piece, you know, which you could really kind of do anything you want with. And I think that's positionless football that Brian Flores completely clamors over. And the thing that worries me, Doug, before talking about really anything negative about any safety, is the fact that if you really look at the contract situation beyond this year, other than your top heavy guys, there's limited depth. There's limited kind of deep contracts for young players. So the defensive backfield is something that I think it has to be addressed. And although a lot of these safeties, including Newsome, have an injury, that's a weakness. If you want to say he did come off an injury, you know, a couple of years ago, but I think that he's your sound number 5.
I like it a lot. My number 5 is Darius Washington out of TCU. He's a small guy, 5'8", 178 pounds, but he sees the game on a different level. So what you want for a safety back there, you want him to kind of see the whole field, reading the quarterback's eyes, reading where the running back's going. He has no hesitation, and he's a thumper at his size. Again, he's small, 5'8", but he's not going to hesitate. He's going to hit the hole. He's going to make that tackle, and he does play in the slot as well, kind of a Bobby McCain type of safety. Negatives, I've said it 2 times. I'm going to say it again. He's small. He's 5'8", 178. He's a small
like the Devontae Smith of the safeties.
And he's only played 2 high roll. So he's never done it on his own. And he has a tackling issue downhill, down speed. Well, because the next thing I was going to say is he has average speed. He's not great fast. So that's why he's my number 5. You know, he's a thumper. He sees the game at a different level, but that size is what puts me. That's what made me put him at 5. What do you think of Darius Washington?
I like him. I think he plays above his size.
Yes.
You know, I think kind of if you were looking at like toughness, he's got that. But like the thing is, Doug, and I should have mentioned this early, I love the safeties of like the yesteryear, which don't exist anymore. So if you're a ball hawk, if you could kind of get your hands on the ball, if you can play tough, I'll be okay with not leveling someone like an anchor, like, you know, Louis Oliver, Brock Marion, even guys like Atwater, Ronnie Lott. They're done. Yeah. You know, you can't play that way anymore. Nope. So the size I'm okay with. And listen, the whole Washington Husky backfield, I love. Yeah. You know, I'm sorry. You know, Darius is TCU. I'm sorry, I mixed them up right there. But Darius Washington in terms of Husky, I mixed that up. I got you. TCU, there's multiple guys in both schools. My bad. But Darius, small guy, I do like him. Plays a little bit above that size. Now my number 4 corner. See, we're both messing up. I get no sleep. You're just busy. It is what it is. My number 4 safety in the draft is Richie Grant out of Central Florida, 6 foot even, 194 pounds. He did it all in the backfield at UCF. You know, he was deep, playing deep safety. He was up on the line, getting after the quarterbacks and getting after the running backs. He's another guy. He sees the game at a high level, breaks on the ball without looking at the quarterback, has no hesitation. He's a guy I wouldn't mind if the Dolphins went out and grabbed. His cons, they're not that bad if you really look at it. You know, he's got limited speed range, so he's not going to be running across sideline to sideline, picking balls off in the backfield. His length isn't there. Again, he's 6 foot even, 194. He's 23 years old. So that's the other thing that some people might not even really look at, you know, the 23-year-old. But I like him. You know, I like the that he's played everywhere. He sees everything at a high level. Really like Richie Grant at 4. Who is your number 4? Hometown guy. I'm a Long Island guy. So, and I also loved Syracuse. So Andre Cisco. You know, nice. Long Island product. And this is really kind of a ball hawk guy. Like him a lot. Good size. I think, you know, he's another guy who came off injury or has that kind of negative about him. But I really think he could be an overall Flores chess piece to use, maybe different levels, different areas. And I like his ability to maybe create turnovers. That's something that's needed. Got to create turnovers, and the Dolphins are starting to do that again.
Yeah, agree 100%. I agree so much that I have him as my number 3.
It is. I love that.
Andre Cisco out of Syracuse. And like you were saying, he 26 picks and pass breakups in 24 games. Like you were saying, that's what Flores was doing with the Dolphins last year.
Mm-hmm.
We were at one point we were number 1 in the turnover differential, and that's what won us the games. You know, it was a lot of defense. So you're saying fast, great, never puts himself in a bad situation. Really like the guy, and like you said, he tore his ACL in 2020. Takes the bait a little bit too much. Takes bad angles and tackling, but it's like the positives are so much better than those negatives. And the injuries there, we've seen people come back from torn ACLs and play fine. But yeah, Richie Grant, Andre Cisco is my number 3. Who's your number 3?
It's Richie Grant. So I think we're simpatico.
There you go.
You know, and another guy who I think if the Dolphins go up and get in a trade, you know, in that 50 plus, I mean, I think he's experienced. I love the Florida guy in him through and through, high school, through college. So there's a lot of probable knowledge on him. And he could do it all. Again, it's a common thing with these top 5 to say you can do it all because that's why they're top 5. I think that's who Flores and Greer are going to target in the backfield. Guys who they say, you know what? We're going to play them in the slot this year, but they're a safety when Bobby or, you know, Brandon doesn't materialize or whatever. Yeah. I just do think that these guys are going to be interchangeable, these top 5, and Richie Grant is one of those.
Who's your number 2?
Javon Holland, who segueing, you could throw him in the slot. Because here's something that I want to say if we can kind of cross mesh to a little bit of the cornerback situation. Nick Needham plays the slot, but he's not a slot corner. He was kind of forced into the slot. He's a boundary guy in college, played, you know, kind of depth boundary his rookie year, mixed in a little bit around the field. And credit to him, just learned the slot. Yeah. But the Dolphins could use a pure guy who they could use in the slot, maybe a safety, like an upgraded Bobby McCain. And I think that Holland is just beastly like that. And I can't really see many weaknesses, frankly.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that one. He's my number 2 as well. Like you said, versatile, moved around, great, you know, separation from the blocks. So putting him, like you said, putting him at the slot corner, putting him up at the line of scrimmage would be fantastic. Flies into the running lanes, and he's even he has punt return talent as well. So he's, like you said, he's a guy that would be fantastic putting him in the slot. And you saw it because when in 2019, when Xavian Howard went down and Nick Needham started playing in that position, that's where he started to play better. So you're 100% correct with him, better on the border. But yeah, Javon Holland is my number 2. My number 1, I don't know if we have the same number 1, but my number 1 is Travon Morig.
Yep.
At TCU.
We're dead on, brother.
6'2", 202 pounds. He's got the length. He's led the nation in pass breakups the past 2 seasons. He's a hard hitter. He plays manned up in the slot, explosive, and he could hold up his all like a linebacker. Negatives, you know, he doesn't have special range, and you know, he won't play single high, and he struggles to recover. If a receiver gets past him, he struggles to recover. But that's it. That's all the real negatives I have on Morig, but the positives really outweigh the negatives. What do you think of him?
I think he's clearing away the first safety off the board, clear and away. Yeah. The award-winning kind of guy across his college career. Great size, good speed, good tackler. If there is a guy who could be what I would love and desire in this class, he's it. But I just don't see the Dolphins using 18. It would be 18. Yeah. Because he's kind of in that, like, let's say, look, if someone loves a corner, you go up and get him. Maybe in the 16, 17 to 25 range. I don't think beyond there. I love the 3rd or 4th or 5th team selection for the safety role. So I'm kind of pricing myself out of Morig and Holland, but nothing would surprise me. Yeah. And if one of those 2 guys end up a Dolphin, I'll be fine just to see how the whole meal turns out, but it would be a really good course.
And like you said, last year, we really can't be surprised by anything. They traded down with the Packers. We thought, you know, safety, running back, maybe guard, center, and they took Noah Benogany, corner.
Which I liked. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. People need to give the kid a chance because, yes, the lasting memory of Noah Benogany is him going one-on-one with Stephon Diggs after, Byron Jones
Best
goes
receiver
down.
in the league last year.
But then all of a sudden they forget about the Jaguars game where Noah Benogany had a good, the Bengals game. People need to chill on Noah. Let Noah do. He's working out with X. He's going to be good. But talking about the draft, right? You alluded on it a little bit. What do you think your top 3 needs are for the team, and what is your thought process going into 6 and 18?
See, I really do want a safety. So it's just right outside of the top 3 needs. Everyone says wide receiver. Everyone says running back. So if it's kind of redundant, we all know that. If I'm building a team to the exact specifications of how I would want it, taking away a love for a Najee Harris guy probably would wait a little bit with this structure of draft picks. So to answer your question, not to go around it, yes, wide receiver / tight end is numero uno. Because you got to get out of there and immediately make Tua happy, the offense happy, and just let the fans just kick back and enjoy the rest of the show. That's just what I would do. So you're in a win position with either Pitts, Chase, Smith, or Waddle. Kind of make your peace with that unless something absolutely crazy happens.
Yeah.
Then I really do think that edge need, whether it's an outside linebacker, whether it's a pure guy to put their hand in the dirt and line up, it just depends on preference. Tells me kind of maybe an outside linebacker-ish prior to the guy with the hand in the dirt. And then I really do want to say safety. I really, truly do, Doug.
And it's funny, too, because safety, I think I did my needs video, and safety was on there, but like you said, it wasn't the most important, but what's going on with Bobby McCain? I'm surprised he's still on the team because the Dolphins could have saved $5 million by letting him go. Eric Rowe played for, people like to look at what he did against Waller and say like, oh, Eric Rowe sucks. He was on Waller for those catches. It's just that Waller is a freak of nature. But the safeties, yeah, because besides that, there's nothing really in the secondary that needs to be touched upon unless, and I've talked about this a ton of times, they potentially move X, which I get a lot of flack in I don't want it to happen. I have to keep saying I don't want it to happen.
The weird thing is with that, Doug, if we could just embellish on that for a half a second, the value that he could bring is extraordinary. But then again, after this season, there's only 3 cornerbacks signed. That's it. And it's X, it's Byron, and it's Noah Igbenogany for 3 to 5 seasons throughout all of them, or 4 seasons if you're Igbenogany, So they have to add depth. And Needham was not an extension. It was just a pickup of the 3rd. So he's a free agent next year too. Or unless you want to say that Waltz and Perry are guys that you can rely on. You can't.
You can't. So what you're thinking, what are you thinking at 18? Would you be all right with, because am I allowed to
say take phone calls for trade backs and
oh yeah,
is that allowed?
Even at 6, would you take a Denver Broncos trade up and go back to 9?
Any call. I take any call depending on how the board shapes out. If it's 4 quarterbacks in a row, it's extremely interesting of the options that you could have, because it's either Sewell or Chase to the Bengals. And if I think you're the Bengals not drafting a protector for your former number 1 overall, it's just stupidity.
Yeah.
Forget about him wanting the car. There's no engine if the car, you know what I mean? You got to protect your guy. And I would draft Chase if that happens. If that happens. But if the Falcons go with Pitts, if they give Matt Ryan a chance and great pick.
Yeah.
You can't say wrong about that. I think that you have to field calls when the quarterback situation comes, because the Bengals are making a pick. Bengals have to make a pick. They're going to be thrilled. Dolphins should take calls. And if you move back to 9, you still get a guy.
Yep. 100%.
And then at 18, I do the same thing. And if Mac Jones is available, I call up Chicago. And I say, I got Washington on the line. They are offering me a 4th. You give me a 3rd. We get this thing done now. And then Mac Jones goes to Chicago. The Skins do something. And then the Dolphins get Najee at 20 instead of the teens. And then Chris Greer is a brilliant man.
Yep.
Or one more, and then we can go on.
Yeah.
I really am circling Baltimore for a team you really got to try to do business with. I want those 2 last picks. I trade 18 back to 27 and 31. Obviously, other things would have to be negotiated. I'd say, look at my roster. Who do you like? Here's 7 names, starting with an offensive lineman who's pricey. I'll give you some money. You get Flowers. take them out of there. You throw a player. You throw a 2022 fourth. I want those 2 second round. I want those 2 back-end first-round picks for 5 more year contracts. 3 first-round picks for the second year in a row. I think that's the goal.
And that's the thing that a lot of people forget with first-round picks. Yeah, you see a first-round pick, you think the sexy picks, but a lot of GMs and head coaches are thinking the way you're thinking is this guy pans out. This guy ends up being a really good guy for us. We have him for 5 years, not 4. I like the way
you don't have to pick up the 5th year. I mean,
exactly.
Right? You can get out.
I like the way you think. Well, Jason, you are going to be back on again. This isn't your first time on. I think I think you've been on the most of all my guests.
No, really?
I don't know. I don't keep account.
No, I don't keep account. I can't take that.
I think so though, but like I said, this is going to be the last time.
Oh, I can't wait. I look forward to these things. I'm like texting you like 3 times this week. Are we on? We're on. We're good.
I think I was half awake for half of those text messages.
I'm just glad you weren't delirious when you asked me to be on the show, and I was confirming, and you were not saying.
Of course, you're my guy.
Always available for you, kiddo.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, bud. Like I said, this won't be the last time.
You're the man, Doug. Thank you, dude.
I'd like to, again, thank both, Jeremy, aka Professor Klump, and Jason for coming on, giving me the time to help me break down these prospect videos. For comment of the day, because be sure to comment. I want to know who your top 5 on corners and safeties are. Like usual, be sure to comment below always. But for comment of the day, a lot of the comments of the day I'm seeing is asking me who the Dolphins should trade. Would you be all right with the trade? Who should they take? All that stuff. And all of that will be answered tomorrow. So if you have any comment of the day, questions or anything, or any questions for the draft, what you want my opinion on what they'll do, this or that, comment it below. And tomorrow I'm not going to be like, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that, but I'm going to try my best to answer all of them in tomorrow's video because we got the mock draft, and then I'm going to talk about what the Dolphins are going to do in the draft. But other than that, guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I will see you tomorrow in a very fantastic video, and then we're going into the draft. But like usual, stay classy. Fins up.